Hello, I'm Richard. This is Over and Over and Over Again, the Positive Arsenal channel, and this is Let's Talk Aubameyang. Hello, how you doing, my name's Richard. This is Over and Over and Over Again, the Positive Arsenal channel. We're live, and tonight's show is called Let's Talk Aubameyang, which is going to be obviously about Aubameyang, which is quite good. I'm going to be joined by some special guests as well, so we can get into a discussion about our captain, our top goal scorer, and everything to do with him. So joining me tonight, I'll bring in the guests before we do that, just wherever you're watching it, it is on Facebook, on Twitter, and on YouTube at the moment. So please give it a like, first of all. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the channel. Just want to welcome on the new subscribers. I've had quite a lot actually in the last couple of weeks. So if you're new here and you do like what I'm doing, I say please subscribe as well if you haven't done so already. There's a lot of stuff coming up. I'm actually doing a watch along of the Arsenal women playing Tottenham women on Saturday as well, so that's going to be something extra to throw into the channel as well. So yeah, lots to get involved with. But without further ado, now we'll bring in the panel, and he's back on the channel. He's been missing. He's had a few little issues going on, but he's back finally. It's great to welcome him back. It's Melvin. How you doing, Melvin? You feeling okay now?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm fighting fit. I've had a small training session this afternoon. I'm all right for tonight.
Excellent. You passed the late fitness test.
Yeah. Always going to pass it. I was always going to pass it, to be honest.
Good. It's good to hear. We've got a strong team tonight. So it's good that you've made the final cut. Actually, you've done well to get in, which is good. And another guy's obviously he's been on the channel before as well. It's always a pleasure to welcome him back. It is, of course, Dorsey. How you doing, Dorsey? You all right?
How you doing, mate? Yeah, not too bad. Feels like it's been a while since I've been on, actually. So looking forward to this one.
Yeah, no, I think it's been a little while, yeah, but it's always good to have you on. And also as well, another guy who's come back. He's been on a couple of times before. But again, it's always a pleasure. It's Dave from the Out and Out Gunners podcast. How you doing, Dave? You all right?
I'm good. Evening, everyone. Thanks for having me on, Rich. I'm looking forward to the show. Aubameyang's always a heated conversation, so I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, well, it's definitely lots to discuss as well. And we've got another guest joining us as well. I say if you saw in the intro, you'll see it's actually we've got the second Mark's brother coming. Well, not brother, but the second Mark's one coming on. It's actually Jerome. It's debut on the channel. How you doing, Jerome? You all
right? Hi, Richard. Yeah, hi everyone. Very, very happy to be here. So looking forward to chatting all things Aubameyang.
Yeah, no, it's going to be good. I say it's a pleasure to have you all on. So particularly to Jerome for his first appearance on the channel. So that's always nice as well. So that is your panel for tonight, and this is going to be Let's Talk Aubameyang. So, I mean, what do we want to start with? Over the season.
Your sound's gone a bit, Richard.
Yeah, your sound, Rich.
The sound's
no, that's better.
Has my sound gone?
No, that's okay, Rich.
Right.
Oh, okay, no problem. Yeah, I mean, I just really wanted to look at, obviously, start with Aubameyang's form really this season. He's not been anywhere near as effective in the team as he has been previously. And I just really wanted to maybe, if we could have a look at between us all as to maybe some of the reasons why that might be the case, what we think maybe has been going on. Maybe I know he's had these personal issues as well, but I believe there's maybe more to it than that. I mean, we start with Melvin. What are your kind of thoughts on the reason why? I don't know. He just doesn't quite seem himself, does he? His smile's gone. His body language hasn't been great. What do you think's been going on?
Well, could it be that subconsciously or consciously that his hunger's gone a bit? I mean, basically, the deal is done. It's probably his last big deal he's ever going to do in his career at a big club. He might go to China or something else, but for a top league, this is like his last big deal. And he doesn't really. Perhaps he's not even thinking it himself. It's subconsciously. He doesn't have to prove himself anymore. It's just it's going through the motions. and one thing leads to another. One bad game, and it like the shoulders drop a little bit, and it just follows on from that. You know, he hasn't got, obviously, like a lot of our players, haven't got the hunger of the youngsters. But I think he's showing less hunger than perhaps a lot of the elder players as well. So it might be a bit of that for me.
Yeah, no, it could be a sort of maybe a little bit of an Ozil situation, perhaps coming into play a little bit with a contract and stuff like that. Possibly. Let's hope that's not the case, because we've gone through that once already. I mean, Dorsey, what are your kind of thoughts on, you know, what kind of reasons have you kind of come up with maybe as to why he's been not himself this season, shall we say? I think that's probably the politest way of describing it.
Yeah, he's definitely not been himself. Like you say, when you can tell there's something wrong when he's not smiling, you know. He's always got that smile on his face. But I kind of think, and I'm hoping, that it's just something as simple as he's just a lack of form. And that is it. He just looks like maybe possibly a player that's just really, really low on confidence. And I think as well, it's what doesn't help is it has coincided with all the contracts and everything else. But I don't know, just watching him play over the last few years and kind of his personality, and he doesn't strike me as that kind of player. You mentioned about possibly looking at another situation similar to Ozil. He just doesn't strike me as that kind of player or even that kind of person. Hopefully I'm right. I don't know, but it just seems like for me, it just looks like he's really low on confidence at the moment, and maybe just needs a few goals just to maybe get himself back on. But listen, he's been at such a consistent level for such a long period of time. You can't keep that up forever. And he is getting on a bit as well. Was he 31 now? Maybe 31 now.
Mm-hmm. So,
and for me, the one thing I've noticed this season is pace. He seems to have lost a little bit of pace, which was such a big part of his game. Obviously, I know tonight's about Aubameyang, but you can say the same for someone like Hector Bellerin. Obviously, he's lost so much of his pace that it kind of really limits his game. So maybe that's the case. It's just a culmination of a few things, maybe just his age, just lack of goals and lack of confidence. Maybe that's what I'm hoping it is anyway. I don't think it's anything too serious for us to worry about right now, if I'm being honest. I mean, obviously it is because we need the goals, but I don't think it's going to turn into a kind of a Mesut Ozil situation. He just doesn't strike me as that kind of player that he's got what he wanted and kind of that's it now. He doesn't strike me as that kind of person. I hope I'm right.
No, I hope you're right as well, because you know, we don't want to go through a similar situation again. I mean, Anthony from the Republic of Arsenal was in the chat there just to say, add some fuel to the Uber fire. He scored today for Gabon against the mighty DR Congo. So he's obviously maybe the confidence thing that might help. If it is a confidence thing, he's got a goal, but he got a hat-trick against Leeds for us not long ago, and that didn't seem to make much difference to his overall performances, did it? And Gary's in the chat as well from DWTT. Who's Uber? He says, yeah, exactly. It's certainly not the same Uber that we knew before. I mean, Dave, what are your kind of thoughts on it? Is it a confidence thing? Do you think that's all it is, a matter of that, or is it maybe more to it than that? Do you think?
I think, look, Rich, he got the contract and he's kind of maybe gone off that couple of percent, you know, where when you're at the higher level, you'll get found out. Look, it was, as Mel said, it was his last big contract. Look, I think it's a human thing where you kind of think, oh, you're settled now, you have your big contract, everything's rosy, so it's a little bit natural to step off a little bit, but I suppose that's okay in your everyday job. You can't do that at the highest level of football. I think the other side of it as well is he scored goals and you're kind of thinking, right, this is it now, he'll kick off from here, but then for some reason it just doesn't happen. He doesn't seem to be going anywhere. I suppose a little bit of confidence thing has come into it now as well, where he scored a hat-trick against Leeds, he scored against Benfica, the two, and you're thinking, right, he's right back on it now, and then he's just back, then something else comes up. It's just like one thing after another, you know. Look, I know he had the issue there over Christmas, but in his personal life, is that something that's kind of been ongoing and maybe came to the fore, I suppose, in the new year? That's playing on his mind as well. It could be something like that. But I suppose the bad thing for Arsenal is they've spent on a big contract for Aubameyang. He's here for 3 years now. And you're kind of looking at a situation. Are we stuck with Aubameyang now for 3 seasons? There was rumours. I think was there an offer from Real Madrid? I see a couple of pages posting it today.
Yeah.
I'd like to see it another couple of games before the end of the season before I'd start to seriously consider those offers, because look, I know everything he's done for the club, and he kind of single-handedly brought us an FA Cup with his goals, but that doesn't buy you a full season for me, Rich. It's time to step back up again. You know, we were asking where would we be without Aubameyang's goals, and this is it.
Yeah, well, we're finding out now, aren't we, really? I mean, he still scored a few, nowhere near the levels that he was. I mean, Jerome, if it comes to you then as well, I mean, what your kind of thoughts on the maybe what's been going on with Aubameyang in terms of his form this season?
I guess, especially on the back end of last season, we came into this season, we've got such high expectations of the guy. Like last season, he basically got us out of trouble single-handedly. With Aubameyang, he's just a pure goal scorer. Apart from his goals, his all-round general play, I think we're noticing it a lot this season. It's not that great, and so when he doesn't score any goals, when he doesn't score as many goals, you really notice it. I think that is a big difference. His record up until this season has been so good. When you look at the goals to games, especially in the league, and this season I think he's scored 9 goals in 24 games or something. And when you've got such big expectations on him, when you're paying him so much money, you want more than that. Like the guy said, I think form's come into it a bit. Maybe the contract as well, and I think obviously he's been rotated a little bit more with Lacazette as well. That probably hasn't helped, but I think it's mainly the expectations really, because at the moment he's probably playing in front of our best, the most creative players we've had probably since he's been at the club. Like with Smith Rowe, Saka, and Odegaard, you'd expect this is it now. He'd be flying, and it's just not working out. Also, I think the last few games, well, this season he's missed quite a few chances. Like they've been quite noticeable, so I think that's played into it as well. But hopefully, like the guy said, it's just a form thing, and he might score a hat trick the next game. But yeah, it's just a pure amount of goals really.
Yeah, I mean, we've got Robert in the chat there said players like Aubameyang love the crowd. Yeah, I mean that's the point. There's no crowd to boost his ego. I kind of get that actually, and maybe he's not the only player that suffered as he says there. Maybe it's it's been beating great players down. Robert says there, yeah, maybe that's part of it as well. Shane's in the chat as well. Thanks for tuning in, Shane. He says Ubi's content earning good money. Quite possibly you wouldn't be. If he had a winner mentality, he would have played for title challenging sides in his career. He'd play in China, no bother. Well, I mean, he may have had the opportunities in the summer. Might need to have. He didn't sign a contract with us. He could well have moved on to somewhere with a bigger contract. So I'm not convinced completely about the contract issue. It probably has played a part, but I don't know. I mean, the other kind of issue for me, the other side of it is what happened, obviously, on the day of the North London derby, where he was left out of the team at the last minute by Arteta due to what was described as obviously a disciplinary breach, which it appears was he was late for arriving, which apparently wasn't the first time he'd done it. Now, he's captain of Arsenal. We're supposed to be, well, we are a big club in world football, and the captain of Arsenal has got certain responsibilities, not only on the pitch but also off the pitch. And if he's being late on more than one occasion, I mean, for a North London derby in particular, that's almost unforgivable for me anyway, whatever player you are. And obviously, Arteta has said, this is behind us now. He's picked him in the next 2 games after that. In both of those 2 games, they've probably been, for me, Aubameyang's worst 2 games for us. Now, is that to do with other issues behind the scenes with Aubameyang and Arteta now? Or is it, again, some confidence thing? Or, I mean, it kind of worries me that he is still the captain following all of that. I personally thought it was a great opportunity for Arteta to say, right, that's it. I'm going to give the captaincy to someone else. You concentrate on your own game. You concentrate on turning up on time and, worry about that. Because to me, he's not a captain on the pitch, is he? I don't think he is. It was mentioned just before, if he's not playing well or he's not scoring goals, his head goes down. And when you're the captain, you've got to go above your own form, you've got to look at helping your teammates, haven't you, when things aren't going well. So for me, I'm not sure whether or not he should maybe remain as captain. I mean, I don't know what you guys think. Melvin, what are your thoughts about that? Do you think this would have maybe been an opportunity for Arteta to have given a captaincy elsewhere?
In a normal situation, of course, it would have been a great opportunity, because he's not what you call a great captain. I mean, he tosses the coin up well, and that's about it as far as captains go. But I think what we've done as a club, we've actually backed ourselves in a corner. We've given him this like Ronaldo type contract that we can't afford to, if you like, upset him, because he's the type of guy that he's very fine margins when he plays on the pitch. Whether he scores or not, it's fine margins, and that's all to do with confidence and the way he feels. And if all of a sudden you take the captaincy away from him now because of that, it's like everyone's like the manager spat in his face and his shoulders can go down. We've only got to go down half an inch. He doesn't score another goal for us. So I think really Arteta probably thought, if I take it away from him, we've probably got a better captain, but can we afford him not playing for us like that? You know, and I think you might turn around and go, well, what about the Xhaka situation? You know, whether they took the captaincy away from him. Well,
yeah,
I think that Xhaka did everything above that Oba did. You know, he showed no respect to his teammates, no respect to the coaches, no respect to the manager. But Xhaka, what he did, all the above, plus he did it to all the fans, everyone that was there, everyone that was watching on television, to the whole world and to the club, showing disrespect. So I don't think it was what he did. It's bad, and he should lose the captaincy, in my opinion, but not as bad as the Xhaka situation to lose the captaincy.
No, I understand it. Yeah, no, I kind of see it was a different situation. But if the rumours are true that he's been late on more than one occasion, then, you know, he's pushing his luck a little bit for me. I don't know. I mean, what are you thinking, Dorsey, about the captaincy kind of side of it? Maybe is that putting too much pressure on Aubameyang, possibly as well, added pressure to his form being bad?
Yeah, so I don't particularly think he wanted it in the first place, if I'm being honest. But I think the problem that we had is that we didn't really have a better option, really. The only guys that when you look at that squad, the only guys that you look that have really got any kind of leadership skills are Granit Xhaka, maybe David Luiz. Kieran Tierney was very early into his Arsenal career, so he wasn't going to be an option at that point in time. And the problem was Aubameyang, albeit he's not a vocal captain. He's not a kind of a Tony Adams, Patrick Vieira captain. But what he did do is he was scoring goals. He was showing leadership on the pitch by his performances. So it was a relatively safe bet, first and foremost, giving it to him, knowing that he plays consistently, he scores goals consistently. So I kind of see why they gave it to him. But at the same time, I don't think he wanted it. I don't think he needed it. For me, it feels like it's really taken something away from his game. And I think what you just said there is spot on. It almost seems like it's too much pressure for him. From whether it was an opportunity to take it away from him, it is. Absolutely it is. But I also think there's an element of risk with doing that. I mean, listen, he's such a popular member of the squad. You can see that. You can see everybody absolutely loves him. And I think with the season that we're having, I just think you take the captaincy away from him, what could possibly be the consequence of doing that from a team perspective, and how that would maybe. And the last thing we need now is a squad that's full of unrest because we've made such a big decision by taking it off him. So I can also see why they didn't take that opportunity. But, I mean, first and foremost, Arteta did exactly the right thing. His man management of that whole situation was spot on. If Aubameyang's taking the piss and he's turning up late, especially to a North London derby, then everybody's going to be in agreement that he doesn't deserve to play, and that there needs to be a consequence to that. So I think Arteta's man management of the situation actually has been very, very good, and doing it to the captain, arguably your best player, it sets his stall out for the rest of the squad and says that's the benchmark. You're going to be late, you're going to do that, then it will happen to you as well. So I just think in terms of evaluating who's going to be the captain for next year, I think we just need to get through to the end of the season and just see where we're at and maybe look at who we can bring in Thomas Partey will be a season in. Maybe he's a captain in waiting. A lot of people are talking about Kieran Tierney. He'll be another season under his belt. Maybe he's possibly ready to do it. But yeah, for me, it's too much for Aubameyang. I think for me, the best thing would be to relieve him of it as soon as we can, but without that risk of unsettling the rest of the squad, and just let him get him back to doing what he does best and scoring goals. So, yeah, I don't think he ever wanted it, if I'm being honest.
I mean, I was going to ask you there actually, Dorsey. You know, you were saying about the way Arteta handled that whole situation, and he was. Don't get me wrong. He was right to have dropped him out of the team for that. There's no other. He did the right thing. I just felt as though maybe he was wrong at coming out publicly with it. He could have just said he's rotated the team, dealt with it internally, and now I just feel as though there's so much pressure on Aubameyang even more, because now everybody thinks, well, he don't care because he was late. He's now had 2 bad games, not scoring goals, and suddenly it's almost going to turn things against Aubameyang. And I feel as though that could have been dealt with internally at the club. He could have disciplined him internally, made the point to the rest of the squad, you know, he's the captain and I'm doing this to him because I'm making an example. But don't come out publicly and say why. He could have just said, I'm rotating the squad today. I'm going with Lacazette as a centre forward. And nobody would question that, because he makes changes every single game. And he has left Aubameyang out of other games as well. So I think that Arteta maybe didn't handle it in public very well. He didn't need to do that. I think he's made it more difficult for Aubameyang in terms of the publicly now. I think there's a lot more pressure on Aubameyang because he's now expected. He's got to put that behind him. He's got to show how much he cares. The only way he can do that, because as Jerome pointed out before, he's not the sort of player that's involved much in the game if he's not scoring. The only thing he can do is score goals. And when he had 2 poor games like he has done, the chances he missed against Olympiacos, the dreadful performance against West Ham, now I just feel as though there's more pressure on him now than it would have been if he had just been left out for tactical reasons, apparently in the press kind of thing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree with that, and I do think that. Listen, it would have been a good thing if he did not come out publicly. But I think the one thing, I mean, we all know, having had Arsene Wenger for 20 plus years, and we never saw anything that went on behind the scenes. We never knew anything, and as fans, all we ever cried to know was what's going on. What's going on with contract situations? What's going on with this player? What's going on with that? So I guess, for me personally, as a fan, I don't mind Arteta doing it. Of course, there's an element of risk in doing it, and it puts pressure on other players. But that pressure can go one way or the other. He'll either want to prove him wrong, and he'll get back to scoring goals and working his socks off, or he'll do what he's done in the last few games and just been almost non-existent. So when you look at that, I guess maybe Arteta's doing it to find out what these players are made of, maybe. But I don't mind a bit of honesty with the fans and just said, look, this is what's happening. We're not gonna accept it. And if players are gonna be late and take the bit, then there's going to be a consequence. And so I get both sides of it. I guess just from my personal preference, I quite like that open, honest dialogue with the fans. And I know it creates pressure, but pressure can be a good thing on the right player. And if you don't react to it, then that's the player's issue more than Arteta's mistake or a club issue.
No, it is, yeah. And I guess maybe it seems like the backlash of that has been, I'll say, the last 2 games when he hasn't been that great, has he? I mean, Dave, if what are your kind of thoughts on the whole captaincy thing with Aubameyang? Then would this have been the right time to have changed it, or you agree with Dorsey? Maybe if we're going to do it, wait until at least the end of the season, perhaps, and then maybe make a change.
Yeah, Rich. I think it would have been harsh to take it off him the day of the North London Derby. You know, we're all like being late. Look, it's completely different to the Granit Xhaka situation. He told the whole club to do one, like, whereas Aubameyang was late. I think it would have been harsh. And then I think what Arteta was as well is if he did take the armband off Aubameyang after the derby, you lost Aubameyang. You might as well have said good luck to him after that, because you wouldn't get the same player again. You're left with a situation there where you have a man, your highest earner, is sitting on the bench, and just not playing and he's not affecting anything. I suppose the other side of it as well, Rich, is I do question Arteta with the way he goes publicly at times. He blasted Pepe at the time against Leeds, but then he didn't really say anything about Xhaka against Burnley. You know, people are saying, "Oh, maybe did he learn?" But he went public then with Aubameyang. Look, I'm Arteta's biggest fan, but I suppose you can question these things when you don't think they're right. As well as that, I don't think Aubameyang should have been in the squad at all in the derby. I think if you're dropping him, you either do go the full way or you don't drop him at all. Because when you look at it, there's a player like Martinelli. He's kind of looking there, going, he's late, but I can't make the squad, and I'm working my socks off every day in training. You know, so I don't know. Look, it was a good message, but I don't know how good of a message it did send. You know, because you need to kind of go the full way or don't go at all. But look, there is probably better players there that are for captaincy, and as Dawsey said, a captain can lead by performance as well. He doesn't need to be the vocal man that's telling what players to go or what to do. You know, a captain can lead by performance as well, whereas Aubameyang just hasn't been doing that either. You know, so I suppose you don't like you can make Tierney captain. Look, he's probably the man that's sticking out, but Tierney doesn't necessarily have to be a captain. You know, that's his nature. He doesn't, like, you don't have to give him an armband to actually for him to do what he wants to do. So that gives you the opportunity of, look, maybe a year or two down the line, could you give it to Gabriel? You have Gabriel, that's a captain. You have Tierney. You have two leaders in your back four. Then you could give it to Thomas Partey. Yeah, so but I suppose if you're making a decision like that, you can't do it in the middle of the season. It needs to come at the end of the season. It's probably a conversation to sit down and between Arteta and Aubameyang and say, look, I do think there's someone better for the armband, and I think it might suit you and benefit you. So what do you think about me moving the captaincy to someone else? And then, look, take it from there, I suppose, after that. But as I say, his performances as well, is he's not working as Gary mentioned there, he's not working hard enough. Another thing that sticks out to me in the Olympiacos game, I said it with you, Rich, at the time, is at the end of the game, Tierney had the ball and he was kind of waiting to pass it up the line, but Aubameyang just simply wouldn't run. And then Tierney played the ball, I suppose, because you're expecting the player to run, but Aubameyang didn't run, and Tierney kind of said, what's going on, or why didn't you run? And then he kind of shouted back at Tierney as well. You don't want to see that either. Look, it's probably picking a small thing, I don't know, but that's kind of little things that he wouldn't have done before. So look, for the good of Arsenal, we need Aubameyang back firing. I just hope he does. But I suppose when you look at it now, it's gone into an international break, so everyone's kind of sitting back and you're assessing everything, and then it allows, I suppose, some situations probably become bigger than what they might have been if we had a game, for example, tonight in the Europa League and Aubameyang scored. It'd be all blown over again, So, but as I said, he did score for Gabon, but I don't think that doesn't matter to any of us. We want him scoring for Arsenal, and that's that.
Exactly. No, that's exactly true. I mean, I don't care how he does for Gabon, if I'm totally honest. But I suppose if from a confidence point of view, it's going to lift his confidence, then maybe we might get the benefit of that next week. But we'll have to see. I mean, he scored goals before this season; it hasn't really sparked him off. I mean, Jerome, what are your kind of thoughts on the captaincy issue then with Aubameyang? Do you feel it might be holding him back, or has it held him back this season?
No, I don't think it's affected how he plays. I think it would have been an absolutely massive statement from Arteta to strip him of the captaincy for being late. I think when it comes to a captain, I think we've got it wrong the last however many years. To be honest, with a captain, we haven't had great options the last 5 or 10 years anyway. No. But what we've seen to have done is give the captaincy based on the player's ability and not their attitude. And I think when it comes to a captain, I think attitude is more important than ability. And with Aubameyang, obviously that's certainly not the case. But yeah, it's a real tricky one, because, like I said, we haven't had great options. And if you strip him, you might as well just, I think, like one of the guys said, you might as well just say goodbye to him. So yeah, I've had a bit of a U-turn with Arteta's decision to drop him from the team. When it first got announced that he dropped him, I thought, oh, that's good management, that. But then, after thinking about it a little bit, this is where man management comes into play. In an ideal world, you treat all the players exactly the same, but sometimes you've got to treat players a little bit differently because they're going to react differently to different situations. I think, like with, say, Fergie, he would give I'm not comparing Aubameyang to Cantona, but he'd give Cantona probably a bit of the benefit of the doubt if he made a few mistakes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas with other players, he just lay into them. And with Aubameyang, when he drops him from the team, you've got to think in the back of your mind, oh, I'm dropping him, but how's he going to react? How's he going to take it? And that's where the man management comes into play. And it could have, it could be backfiring on him. That's not why, but yeah, like you said, the last couple of games since he hasn't been great. So you've got to be very careful when you make these big calls. And yeah, stripping him of the captaincy altogether would have been a bit too far.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I don't know whether or not that lack of pressure on him eased the pressure. Maybe. I mean, there's been a couple of comments. Well, there's been a few comments in the chat there. James says, "Form is temporary, class is permanent. He might be missing chances, but if he wasn't getting the chances, I'd be worried." Yes, I can get that point, but to me, he should be taking a lot of those chances. So he wasn't getting chances before Christmas, and you can maybe understand why he wasn't scoring then. But he's not really got any excuses now, has he? Because the chances are there for him. He's had several, hasn't he? Gary again in the chat says, recalls last season Aubameyang would track back and defend. This season he just walks around, he's not interested in helping the team. I think he does occasionally track back, but he's not doing it anywhere near as much as he did. But I suppose he's been playing more of a centre forward, where maybe when he's playing wide on the left, he's probably got more defensive responsibilities than when he plays through the centre forward, I guess. But even so, yeah, I agree, his attitude's definitely not the same. And James again says captaincy is overrated in the team. You need leaders on the pitch, and leaders don't solve. I mean, I agree that it doesn't matter who's wearing the armband. Someone said about Kieran Tierney. It doesn't matter if he wears the armband or not. He's always going to be a leader on the pitch. Back in the day when Tony Adams was playing, we had 5 or 6, 7 leaders, didn't we, on the pitch at the same time? And only one wears the armband, but it doesn't matter because you've got leaders everywhere. Unfortunately, we don't have hardly any, do we, anywhere? That's our problem that we've got, I guess. And unfortunately, the one who is wearing the armband isn't a leader on the pitch anyway, is he? We've got another Marks in the house, actually. It seems to be a Marks, actually. Craig Marks in the chat. I'm assuming that he's one of yours, is he, Melvin?
They all are, mate. They all are.
He just says, anybody mention that Uber he had an Arsenal plastic bag in the Gabonese dressing room? And he's been quite well. I don't know if he did or not. But if he did, fantastic. That's fantastic, isn't it? If he had that would be great. And Craig again says, Wenger gave Ozil preferential treatment. He certainly did. And how well did that work? Well, no, it didn't. Well, it worked quite well while Wenger was still there, but when Wenger left, it didn't really work, did it? I suppose. And Craig again, we have to get him on, actually. He said we wouldn't have a sniff of European football this season if Uber didn't carry us to qualifying to Europa by winning the FA Cup. Well, no, that's true. I think it was a team effort as well. But yeah, I mean, he did get those important goals in the FA Cup last season to get us in the Europa League, and he did get those 2 against Benfica as well, which sent us through to the next round. So I'm not saying that we should necessarily get rid of Aubameyang. All I'm saying is that, there seems to be issues going on. And, this season he's got 14 goals. The last 2 seasons he's got 29 and 31. And his last 4 or 5 seasons in Dortmund, he was scoring 35, 40 goals a season. So he's well off what he should have been getting at this point. And that's, yes, it's down to the team as well, but I do feel it's a little bit down to him as well. I mean, sort of talking about the captaincy, really, because I do feel as though that is, I know we've kind of talked about it already, but I mean, what sort of qualities do we think that the captain of an Arsenal team needs? As Arsenal, I always, I know we've had a history in the past of really strong captains, haven't we? Frank McClintock and, obviously Tony Adams, as we know, Patrick Vieira, but given the current team that we've got, the current and modern football maybe in general, I know the captaincy's changed as James sort of said in the chat there. What kind of qualities would you be looking for in a captain of Arsenal, Melvin, would you say?
Well, one of the qualities is got to be liked and respected by the other players. Otherwise, they don't take any notice of him. He's got also, which we don't have at the moment, is someone with fire in their belly. Someone that likes to give it out a bit. Someone who's also not frightened to tell his teammates when they're doing something wrong on the pitch. Forget about being friends with anybody. You've got to put that to one side and go, wait, you're not doing it. This is what you've got to do in front of everybody. We don't seem to have that either. Also, but we haven't got a captain or anyone on that pitch, and it's only allowed to be the captain at the moment until change. To go up to the ref if we're getting the wrong decisions the whole time. If one of our players, and I said it before, Saka, gets kicked from heaven to high all over the shop, and no one actually goes up there and says, what is going on here? Have a look at that. He doesn't get protected by the referee, and you've got to blame our players for that as well. And sometimes you've got to actually, if you're not a captain, one of our players, if someone's giving our young kid a kicking, just give a little bit back. We haven't got any of that. And that is inbred with a captain sometimes. He'll have a little word in someone's ear. And we're missing that big time. And also, going back to the game on Sunday, the captain, it was irrelevant who the captain was on Sunday when we gave away that stupid goal. Had we had a captain, I'm sure the players would have been looking at each other and a few orders barked around. So that's the qualities we need. Someone who, as Jerome said, doesn't have to be the greatest footballer in the world or in the team rather, but someone who's got a bit of fire in their belly and wants to win at all costs. We haven't got that at the moment. Well, we might have it with Tierney perhaps, and one and another, but definitely not with Aubameyang.
No, definitely not. That's one of the big things for me as well. It's that fire actually, Melvin, I think, isn't it? That, you know, that you'll go that extra little bit, that whatever it takes to win, to help your team win. And, you know, that's the captain kind of leads by example in that way, I feel, on the pitch, and we don't. And Aubameyang doesn't do that. He won't even he won't even try and get hurt by putting himself in a 6-yard box to get on the end of a cross, will he? So he's not got the bottle to do that, let alone having the heart to drive the team forward when we're struggling in games. Now, go on.
Just one thing I forgot to talk about. It's also a bit disgusting, in my opinion, that when we have a game, the captain of the team is not out there having being interviewed. That is poor captaincy. He should be out there. He'd all like to get it when we do it, when he scores a goal and we've won, and it's absolutely wonderful. But I've never known a captain of any team not to be out there when we have a bad result, a bad performance, and stick his head in front of the camera and go, right, this is the reason, it wasn't very good, blah, blah, blah. And he doesn't do that, and that doesn't show any heart, does it, in all fairness?
No, they didn't, Melvin. And they sent Joe, after one game we had, they sent Joe Willock out. Sending one of the kids out.
Yeah.
What are they doing? The captain stands up there and says, I'll go out, I'll face the music. David Luiz did after the horror show against Man City. He did have a horror show, but he stood up and he said, look, I had a horror show, I'll go out, I'll face the music. You don't send the kids out.
No,
exactly. No, I agree. I mean, that should be, for me, one of the roles of the captain, you know, to do the media stuff ahead of anybody else. Yeah, you don't want the same player coming out every game, but certainly when there's been a bad defeat or you've had a bad game, you need to face up, don't you? And like Dave says there, David Luiz has done it. Jack has done it as well, to be fair. He's faced the media after bad games in the past. He's not sort of shied away from that either. So, yeah, I think you tend to see the character of players, don't you, when it comes to stuff like that? I mean, Dorsey, what do you think is the sort of qualities that you would want from a future Arsenal captain, or even maybe a current Arsenal captain, if we could find one?
I agree with everything that Melvin said. And just touching on a point that Jerome mentioned a bit earlier on, I think the armband specifically for Arsenal over the course of the last 10 years has really lost its relevance. It's lost its importance. It doesn't mean anything to anybody anymore, really. It's been passed pillar to post to players that don't deserve it. And so for me, I would love to see someone in there that just gets it, that just understands the position they're in to be playing for Arsenal Football Club. And just to, like you said, that mentality to push that team through extra mile, try and win games, put your body on the line. And it just, I mean, I don't know whether that's died out in modern football, because you don't get players really that spend 10, 15 years at a club anymore. It's very rare that kind of happens. So maybe that's just we've kind of grown out of that. But I think when you look at the kids that are coming through, and you just think, if one of them maybe can develop some kind of leadership qualities that want to stay at the club and really try and cement themselves as a legend, that's something that I would love to see. Personally, I would like to, if I mean, for me, if Aaron Ramsey had stayed at the club, for me, he was a captain for me, and I think he stood out head and shoulders probably above a lot of players. I know he had his injury problems, but listen, you take that risk with any player that you give the armband. There's nothing stopping Aubameyang getting injured tonight and being out for a couple of months. That's part and parcel of football. So, for me, the biggest thing, I just want someone. I want someone to want the armband. I want someone to really want to be a leader of the team, because at the moment, I can't remember the last time I saw someone wear that armband with pride and really have, like you said, that fire in their belly to try and push the team forward. And it's such a shame, because it's just that armband has just completely lost all importance over the last 10 years. So, when I look at that current squad, it's really difficult to see anybody, because the people that everybody's mentioning, the parties and the Tierneys and listen, I mean, Kieran Tierney, he seems like a decent lad that's really loyal. He seems like that kind of player. He doesn't seem that kind of player that's going to jump ship every 5 minutes and want to join a different club. So maybe he's got that in him. But you're giving it then to a player really that's only been at the club a short period of time again. And I guess you have to earn the captaincy. And you only do that by being at a club for a period of time, being consistent with your performances, standing out, trying to be a leader on the pitch, regardless of whether you've got the armband on or not. And I don't see anybody in that squad really. And the problem is, the only player I do see with any leadership qualities is Granit Xhaka, and he's thrown that opportunity away, unfortunately, because with what he did previously, he should never ever wear the armband again. So I don't know who's going to be the next captain, and I don't know whether it'd be the right choice. But for me, I just want to see someone earn it and want it, and really want to wear it with pride, because it's been far too long since that's kind of happened for me.
I mean, I like the point you made about sort of that homegrown players. In fact, I'm almost of the feeling that every single captain at every club should be a homegrown player at all times, because they get what the club's about, and they're the ones who's more likely to stay loyal, aren't they? Perhaps when other players leave for a better contract offer or something like that, the homegrown players tend to want to stay, and they're more likely to sign a contract more regularly, aren't they? Generally, and they get the club as well. And unfortunately, I suppose we haven't really pushed a lot of homegrown players through into the first team up until now. We've got a good group now that's coming through, but there hasn't really been that many, has there, in the last sort of 10 years or so that we've been looking at. I mean, Jack Wilshere was probably the most likely one, but he just didn't play enough football, did he? You can't really have a captain who plays 10 games a season, or sometimes less than that he played, didn't he? So, I mean, that is something I think should be almost every single club should have a homegrown player as their captain. But at this moment in time, we haven't got a homegrown player who's maybe ready for that responsibility. There's a couple that may well do in a year or two's time, possibly, but at this moment, probably not. And that's something definitely that we should look at a little bit more, I think, because especially now, because we've got such a good batch of young players all coming through at the same time, which we haven't had actually, have we? Probably since the late 1980s, early 90s, to have so many coming through all at the same time. We've had one or two every so often, but not this amount. And there's even some in the under 23s now that are almost, you feel, are ready to step into the first team squad next season. So we could have 6 or 7 regularly in the squad, even in the team. I mean, how good would that be? That'd be brilliant, wouldn't it? If that would be the case next season, or in the next couple of seasons. I think that's really all, isn't it? Our own I'll tell you one of the big problems with captaincy in the last, I had a little look, the last 19 years, we've had 11 different permanent captains.
Yeah.
Like that is, it's not like yesteryear when there'd be a captain for like maybe 5, 6, 7 years. That these captains, you're lucky if there's a captain for 2 years in a row. So I think that's had a bit of an impact. I mean, in terms of what we want as a captain after Aubameyang, I mean, I guess firstly they've got to pretty much be a regular starter. And with Arteta, especially the centre backs, he's changing his centre backs every week. So
couldn't really have one of the centre. You couldn't put any of the centre backs as a captain in this team because they'll play one week and the next week they won't. So I think when it comes down to it, especially these days, I mean, I don't know if I think someone might have mentioned in the chat earlier that a captain now might have lost a bit of significance, perhaps. But with us, it's when things aren't going well. It's the guy that's going to like lead and inspire the team, not someone that's going to drop his head. So I think that's super important because when everything's going well, we don't really care who the captain is. It doesn't really matter. It's when things are going tough. Who's going to be that guy that's going to lead the team? Because that's what a captain is. It's a leader, isn't it? Yeah. And the captain wouldn't have had that. Wouldn't have allowed what happened at the second goal at the weekend. They just wouldn't have let that happen.
No, but lads as well, like with your captain as well, I always look at the captain and I look at Roy Keane as a captain. You need to have a will to win. He's going to set the bar. He isn't going to lie down. He'll always be your best performer, every week. He's kind of telling fellas what to do. He's telling fellas where to go. He's firing fellas up. He's putting their arm around the shoulder of other players. I think as well with the five captaincy thing that Emery done, I think that was more so rich an actual. I think that was a move though to actually make fellas become leaders. He probably looked at it and thought, I don't see a leader here to give one captaincy. So maybe if I kind of tell these 4 or 5 that you're the captain, it kind of could, I suppose, make them develop into leaders. I didn't agree with it at the time as well, but I think that was probably part of the reason. We're looking around going, we're the leaders. So I can't understand if Unai Emery didn't do the same, But as I say, like with a captaincy as well, what I don't like, Rich, is and what a captain should be. What the captain should be doing, and what I don't like from our players down through the years is when we have a defeat, especially in a way, and look, even at home as well, it probably doesn't matter where it is, the captain should be pulling the players around to go and applaud the fans. If that was Aubameyang, if we lost that game 1-0 to Burnley, Aubameyang wouldn't be around applauding the fans. He'd be gone down the tunnel. The captain should be pulling around you to go down. Fans are paying to go to away games, and then if the players lose, they're walking down the tunnel. The captain should be bringing them out and respect the fans as well. Look, the fans, will get on their back in that, but that's the name of the game. That's one thing that I don't like, that I have seen down through the years. When they lose or they draw, or they're going down the tunnel, go around the captain. If you were the proper captain there, I think Tierney would do it. They'd pull fellas around and say, go out and applaud the fans.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, because that's the one thing. I mean, I've been to plenty of away games where we've lost, and if 4 or 5 of the players just go down a tunnel, you get upset and annoyed with them, because there's no excuse for that, is there? Because at the end of the day, you've spent all your day travelling, you spent all that money to watch them, and yes, you're disappointed because they've lost. So the least they can do is come over and thank you for your efforts and getting behind the team during the game and stuff like that. So yeah. I mean, I don't think players should need to be pushed by the captain. They should naturally want to do it anyway. Yeah. They should naturally go to the fans. It should be a natural instinct for them to do. And unfortunately, that isn't the case quite often. And yeah, if it isn't, then maybe they do need someone to do that. And that is another important point as well. Joe in the chat there, how you doing, Joe? Thanks for watching. He says, do we know why Arteta gave Aubameyang the captain after Xhaka? Well, no, I mean, it wasn't, obviously Arteta wasn't there then, was he, when the Xhaka incident happened? It was still under Emery. But was he given? Because I know obviously Emery had them 5 captains, as Gary says in the chat there, because he was one of the 5 captains. Oh yeah, he was one of the 5, wasn't he? Along with a few others. Ozil was one of the 5 as well, wasn't he? So we could have ended up with Ozil as regular captain.
And Lacazette and Hector Bellerin.
Yeah,
I think one of the 5 captains. I think one of the 5 captains wasn't even at the club anymore.
Yeah. Quite possibly.
Just think of a number, ridiculous.
I mean, does anyone know how Aubameyang, who picked Aubameyang as the actual full-time captain? Was it Arteta or was it before Arteta coming? Because obviously the Xhaka incident was a month or so before, wasn't it? And was Aubameyang the captain when Arteta came in or not? I can't actually remember now.
I think he was kind of next to 9.
So, yeah. I think he was.
I think it was Arteta that actually gave him the armband and said, you are now the club captain. But yeah, I think he was kind of interim captain, if you like, under Emery until Arteta came in.
Yeah, okay. I mean, it just I wasn't aware that Arteta had made that actual decision himself. I thought he was already the captain, so he just allowed him to carry on with it. But I'm not really sure how that happened because we didn't, like you said, we didn't really have actually one captain, did we? I know Xhaka was captain for a bit, but I don't think he was he wasn't named official captain, was he, Xhaka, of the club?
No, I don't think he was.
No, he was one of the 5, I think, Rich. It was him. It was Ozil, Xhaka, Aubameyang, Lacazette, and Hector Bellerin.
Yeah.
Just shows how insignificant the captain of Arsenal's been the last few years, doesn't it? We can't remember when it was, who it was, what manager who got it under. It's just a non-entity, isn't it?
Yeah.
Insignificant.
No. I mean, it's been made insignificant. I don't think it is insignificant. I think being captain of Arsenal should be a fantastic achievement for any player to be given the captaincy of Arsenal. It's become insignificant because of the way that it's been treated. I say obviously what Emery did with his, maybe Emery didn't know who the captain was, so he thought, well, I'll give it to a few people and see who steps up to the mark. And maybe that's what he did, and in the end, nobody really did. And we're in the situation now where we're still stuck with that same problem. And I don't know. I think it just takes strong leadership from the top. I know, we sort of mentioned before that it would have been a big call for Arteta to have taken it off him after the Tottenham game, after the incident. It would have been a massive call, wouldn't it, for him to have done that? But that's what leadership's about, isn't it? That's what strong management's about, making the big decisions and saying, right, to me, there would only have been one reason to come out in the press with him being late and everything like that would have been simply for him to then announce that I'm stripping him of the captaincy. Otherwise, keep it all behind closed doors, because we didn't need to know that, did we? Obviously, if Aubameyang gets a captaincy taken off him, we then need to know why, don't we? Because obviously, we're going to think what's gone on here. So that's what maybe. So I thought when he came out publicly with that, I thought that was going to be the next step. On the Monday, we'd find out that Aubameyang was no longer captain, but that hasn't happened. So I'll find that a little bit baffling personally. But anyway, I guess it's
Richard. On the other side of the coin, though, it might show a small bit of weakness in Arteta, his management, because Arteta said it's not the first time he's done it. So therefore, he didn't do the right thing the first time, did he? He didn't actually have a word and say, "You do this again, you're in a bit of trouble here, mate." So to let him get away with it, I don't know how many times, once, twice, 3 times, in my opinion, that's showing weakness on Arteta's side.
Yeah, no, that's I mean, we don't know everything that goes on behind the scenes, do we? I mean, it might not just have been one previous time; it might have been more. We don't know, do we? We just know it was more than once, apparently. But yeah, I mean, Arteta needed to have maybe dealt with that a bit earlier, but I just don't think it's really been dealt with at the moment in particularly well. Gary there in the chat says, too many following examples. Xhaka with a poor clearance for goal, Emil Smith-Rowe with the handball. Not one Arsenal teammate came up to them to tell them to shake it off. Where's that man? Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, you used to see Tony Adams, when someone made a mistake, he would go over to him, wouldn't he, and try to lift them and stuff like that. And you even see it on a Sunday morning, don't you? Sunday morning teams, you've got a captain who, not even the captain, other players, don't they? If you made a mistake, quite often other players will come up and lift it. It just doesn't seem to happen, does it? At the top level. And Joe there, I think you should pick a captain and vice captain. None of these 5 captains. No, of course not. No. It needs to be. You need to have a captain and a vice captain, and that's it. And it takes somebody to make that decision. I mean, our captain is Aubameyang, and our vice captain is Bellerin. That's the mess that we're in at the moment when it comes to leaders on the pitch.
Who else do you give it to, though? If you look at that squad, who else do you give it to?
I mean, for me personally, I agree with what you said before, Dawsey, that for me, there's only 2 natural leaders and natural captains who play pretty regularly in that team. And unfortunately, neither of them would be popular as captains. That's David Luiz. He's a natural leader on the pitch for me. And Granit Xhaka, they're the only 2 that have got those qualities. But I think if either of those 2 were made captain, there'd be Twitter would literally burn, wouldn't it? It wouldn't be able to happen, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But they're the only 2 that we've got. And yes, that's an issue that Arteta's got, that there isn't. He's not exactly got a lot of choices, has he? But for me, they're the only 2 that stand out for me that have got those kind of qualities. I mean, Saka in particular has spoken really highly of David Luiz, the influence that he's had on him and the help he's given him, and other the young players have as well. And I think Xhaka's the same. And I think both of those 2 are respected in the dressing room. It's just unfortunately outside of the club bubble, if you like, is where they're not respected, the fans in particular. And that's the problem that we've got. But is that more important? Is the fans' feelings more important than what's actually right for the team? I don't know. That's something that someone would have to make that decision. But it would take a brave man, wouldn't it, to make either of those two captain? I think.
I just feel like at the moment, I think Arteta is on really, with that current squad, he's in a lose-lose situation, because I completely agree with you that the only two players that you've got in that squad that can lead a team are David Luiz and Granit Xhaka. Granit Xhaka's thrown away any chance he's got of ever being captain of the football club again. And if he is made captain of the club, then serious questions need to be asked. David Luiz, yeah, I agree. I think he's a natural leader on the pitch, but he's just another one that's always got a mistake in him. He's always got a moment of stupidness that can cost us a game, and you can't have that. But when you look at, for me, when I look at Aubameyang and Bellerin as captain and vice captain, you look at Aubameyang has arguably earned that right based on the fact that, well, there isn't any other better candidates, and he's earned that right by his performances on the pitch over the course of the last 2.5, 3 years. And then you look at Bellerin, he's someone that's been around the club for a very, very long time. He knows what it's all about. He gets the club. So that kind of made sense, regardless of how people feel about Bellerin and whether he's good enough and all of that stuff. But I think that there's logic behind them two being captain and vice captain. It's just the fact that as a club, we don't have a better option. So I know people laugh and scoff at the fact that they're captain, but I can kind of get the logic behind why they are.
No, I do as well. Yeah, we're not exactly blessed with a lot of options in that area, which is why we're maybe in the kind of situation that we are anyway. I mean, kind of moving. Go on, Melvin. Yeah, go on.
I'm going to say, this is not popular opinion, this, but two did have perhaps captain quality, and that was the goalkeeper that we let go. He had a bit of fire in his belly. And it's not always very good to have a goalkeeper as the captain, but it has worked in very good teams in the past. But if we've got no one else to play, he plays every week, number one. He's vocal, number two. He's got a little bit of nastiness in him, and let's face it, you've got to be bad to be a goalkeeper anyway. And I think he might have been a little bit of for me, he was still in the side, but what we've got now, he'd have been perhaps my choice.
It's not bad. That's not a bad shout.
That is a great shout.
He gets the club as well, didn't he? He's been around the club for a long time again, so he understands it. And you could tell from what happened after the FA Cup final how much it meant to him. So, not a bad shout at all. Apart from the fact he doesn't play for us anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Our captain plays for Aston Villa now, which is
shame we can't have Aston Villa, mate. Everyone else has had it.
Shame we can't have Aston Villa's captain playing for us, which would be quite nice as well, wouldn't it? But anyway,
very true.
Yeah.
Maybe one day, you never know. Gary in the chat again. Arsenal should make the best decision for the team and not the fans. Yeah, exactly. I totally agree with that. He said he would hate it if Xhaka was captain, but that's Arteta's decision. I'll never agree with all of the manager's decisions. No, well, none of us do we? Exactly. Joseph, Melvin, are you in school with your hand up? You need to go and film it like Graham. Brilliant. He's just polite, Joe. That's what it is. You won't understand. You're too young. An older generation thing is.
No, practicing being a goalkeeper.
But yeah, so Graham Ricks mentioned that last night as well, didn't you, Melvin?
That's right. Yeah, he thought I might want to go to the toilet.
Yeah, that was quite funny actually. That was a good show, that actually. So definitely watch that as well. From Dial Square to where the Graham Ricks show last night. That was good. That was good stuff as well. I wanted to kind of move on really a little bit more, obviously, still with Aubameyang, but the fact that for me this season in particular, I've noticed that probably 95% of our best performances have come when Aubameyang's not been playing. When Lacazette's been through the middle, when we've had maybe Smith Rowe on the left in recent games and Saka on the right. And that's been our best performances. Leicester away, Southampton away in the league, Chelsea at home, obviously the North London derby for 75 minutes. And I think we can go through. I mean, yes, there has been one or two good performances that Aubameyang played in, but overall, most of our good performances this season have been without him in the team. Now, is that a sign that maybe the team are evolving. Arteta's team is evolving in a different direction to what's going to bring the best out of Arteta anyway. Is that maybe where we're heading now with, you know, this new style of play that's Arteta is developing with the young players and stuff like that? I mean, what do you think? Do you think maybe Aubameyang's days are numbered anyway now in the team, just because of that reason?
I don't think that they are actually. I do think they are. I mean, Aubameyang is best, in my opinion, when we play a very play defensively and we play on the break very quickly. But he's superb like that. I mean, when he first came to us, he scored a couple of goals. We were in dreamland. We saw her under pressure. We play the ball to him in a space. We come onto it, take the defender away, and flick it past the goalkeeper. But he hasn't done that for quite a long time. I don't know if it's because the other defender got to know his game, or just the way we play football, or don't get the ball quick. But now we've got these very, very quick midfielders. I thought he'd be even better, to be honest with you. I thought he'd be able to go into these little channels and score loads of goals, but it just hasn't worked. And it might be a bit of a coincidence we played our best football, because let's face it, we play our best football without him, I can agree, because he's not a great footballer, he's a great finisher. But I thought he'd have more impact in games where he played by getting more goals. So I think we can play without him. And we, at some stage we've got to play without him. I mean, we'll go back last year, at the end of last season, if you said to any Arsenal supporter, can you imagine Aubameyang not getting in the team? No, you've got to sign him up. Whatever the cost is, you've got to sign him up. I think now you might have a different slant on him now. I think we can play without him. I think we've got other things to our armoury now. We've got other things happening. We're not just a cross the ball, hopefully someone's in the middle. We're not just a boot it up, which we never really was anyway. We've got so many different ways we can attack a team now. We actually attack a team for the first time, I've seen it in the last few years, through the middle. You know, the last couple of seasons we've done it been attacking on the wings. And I've stopped the wings, end of story. Nowadays, we're all over the place, you know, which is lovely to see. It's quite exciting. You know, with Odegaard as well. I mean, that brings another dimension to our play. Yeah. So all of a sudden, if we're not relying on him to take us to another level, we've got other players taking us to another level. And I don't think it's the end. No, listen, I'd love him to continue playing and scoring goals for us, but there's a question mark there.
I mean, what's significant for me is recently we scored 3 goals away at Olympiacos. Aubameyang didn't score any of them. We scored 3 goals against West Ham. Aubameyang didn't score any of them. We're creating a lot more chances, like you said, with Odegaard in the team. You know, with Smith Rowe playing more regularly now, and despite the fact that we are now a lot more dangerous in attacking areas with a lot more different options, Aubameyang scoring less goals than he was. You know, in games that we're scoring more goals as a team. Usually, if we scored 3 goals away at West Ham, Aubameyang would have got 2 of them, or 1 of them at least, wouldn't he? Like last season, you know, when we scored 3 away at Olympiacos, Aubameyang would have got 2 of them goals. He didn't get any. So there is definitely a shift in the way that we're playing, and maybe Aubameyang hasn't able to. Maybe it's just he hasn't literally been able to adapt his game to the way that we're playing now with the better players, the more creative players around him. I don't know what it is. It just seems strange that you'd imagine, because he's not the sort of player that gets you goals on his own. Generally, is he? He needs stuff created for him. It's almost strange that now he's got loads and loads of creativity behind him and he's scoring less goals. It doesn't make sense to me. I mean, what do you think about that, Dawsey? Do you think that maybe maybe the team's evolving quicker than he can adapt?
Yeah, quite possibly. And I think as well, our first instinct when we start to attack is not to look for him. Whereas in previous, probably towards the back end of last year, the first thing, as soon as we drive towards the opponent's goal, the one thing you look at is where's Aubameyang? What run is he going to make, and how can I get the ball to him? We don't do that anymore. It certainly looks like Arteta wants to be a team that shares the goals out. You know, you want to have 3 or 4 players that are going to get 10, 15 goals a season, rather than having to rely on one striker to get 30 goals a season. So, and when you talk about that adaptation, I think Lacazette is adapted a lot quicker than Aubameyang has, because I think Lacazette. Yes. Bearing in mind he's not played week in, week out, he's been a bit stop-start in terms of his consistency of being picked. But I think he's been pretty good. Certainly over the last maybe month or two, I think he's been brilliant. But Yeah, I agree with you, Rich. I think it's he's struggling to adapt. I think he has. You can see he's lost a bit of pace. He hasn't quite got that pace that he had, which was obviously a big factor in him kind of breaking those lines and getting in behind the defence. So I don't know. I don't know whether that's the end of it for Aubameyang, or whether we need to kind of look to move on. And listen, just because he signed a 3-year contract, it doesn't mean there's not going to be other clubs in there that are going to want to have him. I mean, he's still a very, very good centre forward. So if we decide to move him on, or he decides to move on, I don't think we're going to be in a situation like we were with Mesut Ozil struggling to get rid of him. So, but yeah, I think you're right. I think it's just a case of the team are trying to play a different way, and he's clearly struggling to adapt to that. But I mean, I'm one of Arteta's biggest fans, but you just see people like Martinelli on the bench that are just sniffing for an opportunity. That's all they want. He just wants an opportunity to get out there and show what he can do. And it's the one thing that does frustrate me a little bit, is that just if you've got a player there that wants to prove himself, and you've got another player that's starting week in, week out and not delivering, give him a chance. What's the worst that can happen? No, he's not going to do any worse than what Aubameyang's doing. So give Aubameyang a rest. If he's got pressure because of stuff that's going on outside of his football career, then just relieve that pressure off him and just give him a bit of a breather, and just let someone else have an opportunity to try and prove himself. So yeah, maybe we are just developing a way that's just not going to suit that kind of centre forward potentially. But it certainly looks like hopefully we can find the players that will allow us to share the goals and not have to rely on Aubameyang to score the goals.
No, I think that's a good point. I mean, Terry in the chat there says, what do we think of Uber through the middle? The class of Odegaard will find those little passes that Uber needs. I mean, it hasn't really worked so far, has it? I mean, Odegaard's played, 5 or 6 games with Aubameyang through the middle. It hasn't really worked. Lacazette's been more of a threat through the middle with Odegaard playing, actually, hasn't he? I know he drops deeper, but he's certainly been scoring more goals. So yeah, that's something. I don't know if that's not quite worked. Does it need more time? Maybe. Obviously, Odegaard's quite new into the team, isn't he? Maybe it might take time. What do you think about that, Dave? Do you think that maybe with Odegaard now getting more established, that he can maybe bring more out of Aubameyang in terms of goals, or do you feel it's not really heading in that direction?
I don't think, not yet, Rich. I don't think we're good enough yet. Where you'd see with Man City, where we're going to have 70% of possession and you're going to pin a team in and kind of sustain attacks. We're not that good enough yet, so therefore you can have a centre forward who's only going to be in the box. That's why it suits Lacazette better. He's able to drop in, he can play the balls out to the wing, and then you get your crosses in the box, or you play the little cutbacks that we like to do, or you can see what Arteta's trying to do with Lacazette. Aubameyang, he can't do that. Lacazette will put himself out about a little bit more as well, and I suppose technically as a footballer, Lacazette is a better footballer than Aubameyang. So I think for our attack, I get what the point is with Odegaard. Will he find those passes? But that's if you're playing kind of and you're sustaining an attack for a large periods of the game. I suppose the other side of it as well is he's not really a winger. So, like all he really does is he makes those kind of out-in runs, kind of between the centre half and the fullback. But if the other teams kind of copped onto that because they were bringing the fullback in narrow, they were kind of stopping that space and they were kind of leaving Aubameyang half the ball on the wing because look, he's probably not going to beat them one-on-one, or find a cross. He's not really crossing it to anyone at the same time. Who's he crossing it to? Pepe and Saka and Lacazette. So I think from the style, it doesn't make sense for Aubameyang to start as mad as it seems. But that's why I think when you see the performances where we had against Chelsea, we had against Southampton, and we had against Leicester, and that because we had 2 natural wingers. And then we had a centre forward. It just seems to bring more balance to the attack. You have 2 wide men, you have your centre forward, you have your number 10, and I suppose it allows us to sustain the attack better than with Aubameyang. But I suppose going back to last season, everything was going down the wing as well. So that at least now when we're saying it's going through the centre, that's creating problems for the opposition as well. When you were playing against Arsenal, it was kind of easy to set up against Arsenal. Everything was going to kind of come down the left wing, and you kind of have to make allowance for Aubameyang's runs. So look, if he was with Man City, maybe he'd probably still continue to score goals. But I think from the point of view from the team that we're in, we're just not quite good enough to have a centre forward that's not able to affect the game and affect the play as much as a Lacazette or even a Firmino at Liverpool. Look, he doesn't get as many goals as you probably like from your centre forward, but he's allowing the wingers get 15 and 20 goals in a season. So he's not that type of player either. Look, again, going back to, as I say, he did win us the FA Cup and that, and it does count for something, but it can't count for a whole season, But you're kind of looking at it, we're not the greatest team in the world at the minute, and when you have a player like Aubameyang, I can see why Arteta tries to want to get him in the team. He's one of our better players at the end of the day. So, but you can only do for that for so long until it's kind of to the detriment of the team, and I think now is the time to. And we've kind of seen glimpses of it, so now is the time possibly to sustain with Pepe left wing, Saka right wing, and Lacazette up front, or even bring Martinelli in and go with the same, go with that as well, because we played very well against Chelsea, Rich, and he's kind of gone from that again. He never ever really went back to that team again, and like we played, that was probably our best performance of the season if you kind of think back. So it's a little bit strange, but I suppose at the moment, from the style of play we want to play, I don't think Aubameyang should be started in that team.
No, I mean, obviously, at the weekend, he sort of tried to get Lacazette and Aubameyang in the team, didn't he? Kind of shooed in Aubameyang on the left, with Lacazette through the middle. Well, he actually started on the right, didn't he, Aubameyang, and that didn't work, so he moved him to the left. I mean, Jerome, going on to sort of the Man City point, actually, I mean, what I've noticed about Man City is their wide players score most of their goals, a bit like Liverpool, and the centre forward don't have Man City's goals are spread around the front players almost equally, as opposed to having one player. I mean, it used to be Aguero used to get 30 goals, but that hasn't happened for 3 or 4 years now. Pep's changed that, hasn't he? And I think Arteta's trying to do that for us. You see Odegaard, when he pops out of a few goals, Saka's scored a few more goals this season. I think Pepe still needs to score a few more, but maybe that's the way we're heading, and maybe we just have to get used to the fact that if Aubameyang scores 12 goals a season in future, maybe that's, if he's doing the job for the team, maybe that's fine. But I suppose at the moment he's not doing that either, is he?
Yeah. Well, you know what? Like you said at the beginning of this little segment, our best performances have been without Aubameyang, and to be fair, I think that's a really good sign. I think it's an excellent sign, because if you would have asked, discussing this in July, August, when before the end of the cup final, and we'd have been worried about how we're going to score goals without Aubameyang, and now all of a sudden we're able to play well without him, and that's playing well without him. With not even I'm not a massive fan of Lacazette, so we're playing better with an okay striker. If we can upgrade on Lacazette and get a top draw striker in, then it could be even better. What I'd like to say with Aubameyang, whenever he starts on the wing, I don't like it. If you look at how Arteta likes to play, he's been playing, say, Smith Rowe and Saka wide. Now, Smith Rowe and Aubameyang, their style of play is completely different. Smith Rowe as a player has loads of touches, can drift in and out. He's comfortable passing the ball to different players. Aubameyang is not like that at all. If you give the ball to Aubameyang on the halfway line, unless he's got all grass in front of him and no defenders, nothing's going to happen. He's not a link player, so I'm surprised that Arteta is not persisting with him on the wing, but he's still playing him on the wing, because I don't think, from the way Arteta wants to play, that he'd put a player like Aubameyang on the wing. For me, it's like putting Michael Owen on the wing. I can't understand it. But yeah, like I said, it's a good sign we can play well and score goals without him, because he's going to be with us maximum another 2 seasons after this, and have to eventually move on from him.
Yeah, no, that's a good point about that, actually. Yeah, it's a good sign that we have played better without him, because, like you said, last season and even the 2 seasons before that, you looked at the team and thought, well, without Aubameyang playing the games that he couldn't play, you'd think, where's the goals coming from? And generally they didn't. And it maybe is that this evolution of the team. is a positive. But that's and you are better off having the goals spread more evenly around. I mean, we haven't had many goals from midfield, have we, for the last couple of seasons, actually, since Ramsey stopped playing regularly. He was the only midfield player who used to make them runs, get late runs into the box and get on the end of things. We haven't had a midfield player to do that. It's good that Ødegaard suddenly popped up a couple of goals, actually, in the last few games. And we need that more, don't we? I think now I would rather see more goals from midfield and less from the strikers necessarily. As long as we're still getting enough goals to win games, it doesn't matter who scores them for me. But if you've got a player like Aubameyang in the team, if he's not scoring, he isn't doing anything else. He's not. As you said, he's not the sort of player that's going to get the ball, go past 3 players and score a wonder goal, is he? Has he ever done that? You know, he's got that little trick of cutting him from the left onto his right foot and smashing him in. He's done that a few times. But other than that, he hasn't got a trick in him, has he, really? You know, like I think we said before, he seems to have lost a little bit of pace this season as well. So yeah, I don't know. It is strange because I say without his goals, he doesn't really contribute much else. Joe says he still thinks big clubs would still take him. Well, I don't know if they would actually. He says there as well, Joe, that Uber's 2 weeks to play down the middle. It certainly seems that way. Gary, there big clubs would need a free transfer with Aubameyang's weekly wage. I'm not sure Arsenal would do. I mean, because he's on that big contract, I mean, we wouldn't give him a free transfer, would we? I don't suppose, unless we really wanted to get rid of him, which I don't think we do at the moment. And Joe says, we need a good header of the ball. Yeah, we do. If we're going to get crosses into the box, which I know the number of crosses have increased, haven't they, per game now under Arteta than they did before. And we don't really have a lot of people that do attack the ball in the box, do we? I mean, we've got a few defenders. I mean, Gabriel's got a couple of goals, hasn't he? He's the one attacking crosses, but the forwards aren't, are they? How many sort of... I know Aubameyang did score a header, didn't he, against Benfica, wasn't it, when he got that header at the end? And Lacazette scored a header against West Ham, both from about 2 yards out, actually, weren't they? So it wasn't difficult headers, if you like. But we haven't had a player like that. I mean, you know, since Giroud, as Gary points out there, you know, maybe change the way we play so Giroud isn't necessary. Yeah, well,
Rich, we got that new set piece coach and we're gone worse from set pieces.
Oh, tell you what. Yeah, oh my God.
He's stealing a living, definitely.
It might have been against West Ham. I'm watching it. We get a corner. I think the third player after that to touch it was our goalkeeper. We didn't cross it and put it back. I thought, and that's with planning. Do we plan to do that? It drives me mad. The amount of times we've done that, it's unbelievable. Yeah. I mean, is he a cricket coach or a football coach?
I mean, he beats me. He is nicking one, yeah.
No, I don't know. Yeah, it seems strange that since we've apparently brought this guy in, wasn't he from Brentford or somewhere before?
Yeah.
I haven't watched a lot of Brentford.
Did Brentford score a lot of goals from set pieces before when he was there or not? I don't know because I never really saw it. I don't know if somebody needs to check the video.
You know, could have been the caterer, couldn't he? He could have been the caterer at Brentford, couldn't he?
Maybe he was. Maybe he was. I don't know. He certainly doesn't seem to know what he's doing when it comes to set pieces. Anthony, there in the chat, do you think Aubameyang's contract guarantees him a certain number of games, whereas guys like Martinelli wouldn't have that clause, as he's on his first Arsenal contract, wasn't expecting the money in the team? Well, I don't know really. I know we think that about Willian's contract, don't we? That he must have a certain number of games in his contract, but I'm not sure of Aubameyang. I mean, he's captain, isn't he? So I guess the captain generally gets picked every game, don't they? And Anthony again says, in fairness to the set piece coach, defensively, I think we're more solid. Yeah, that's a point. Almost sure I saw stats to say we're defensively the best in the league from set pieces. Well, yeah, we've definitely improved defensively. Maybe that's what he was brought in for. Maybe he hasn't worked on the other end of the pitch yet. A bit like Arteta as well. He's worked well on the defensive side of the game, but hasn't quite managed to, push that up to the other end yet, actually. And Gary says, obviously, about Willian's contract, he mentions that as well. This isn't Sunday League where everyone plays. It's supposed to be football. Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, Martinelli's the one for me. Surely he should have had more minutes recently, with Aubameyang being so much off form as well. I mean, I know Smith Rowe's done a good job on the left, actually, but for me, Smith Rowe is more of a number 10, and he's put Smith Rowe on the left-hand side instead of Martinelli in a couple of games. I just find that a little bit strange. And Gary says, apparently, that's the wrong one there. He says, we've only let in 3 goals from set pieces. Well, that's... does that include Aubameyang's own goal against Burnley? Does that count as conceding a goal from a set piece?
And West Ham goal the other day, that's from a set piece as well. So
Oh, the free kick, yeah.
Yeah, so like a set piece coach, even like the players as well, but a set piece coach should be aware of all those kind of things.
Yeah.
And it says he's
talking
implemented the laying down behind the wall tactic.
That was Arsene Wenger that did that. Do you remember the picture of Arsene Wenger on the beach when he's lying down on the sand? That's Arsene Wenger's tactic.
Yeah, no, maybe it is, yeah. But we certainly have done that well, to be fair. It's never actually come into play yet, but we've laid down nicely behind the wall, which has looked quite good. Bellerin's done it a couple of times, hasn't he? But yeah, well, maybe that's what they've done. That's it. That's the work. There you go. So he's not stealing a living, Dave. He's done that. So what more can you ask for in a year?
I think that's more Arsene Wenger, Rich. But look, we'll agree to disagree.
It might well be. Who knows? Anyway, at least he's done something, I suppose. I mean, obviously, finally, the last kind of point I wanted to make was probably the big question, maybe, to see what we think. Do we maybe feel that with everything that's gone on this season and the way that, as we've said, the team's developing over the last sort of 6 months or a year, would you sell Aubameyang in the summer if a decent offer came in? Or would you think, no, let's keep him for the last 2 years that we've got him anyway? What do you think, Melvin? You go first. Would you sell him with a good offer?
Yeah, I definitely would, actually. On the points you made about how we played better without him and won games without him. Also, it would increase the funds in the kitty, if you like, and also save us a hell of a lot on wages. I think Project Over hasn't worked, has it? Project Over this season. And I just can't see in the next 2 seasons him getting any better. He might be about the same, if not worse. So, in my opinion, sell him to get the money, sell him to get the wages down, sell him to get an upgrade. So, I would definitely let him go on that basis. Yes.
And who would the upgrade be?
What we did, sorry, just one thing. What we probably did, we've done it. We always do in Arsenal. We give players contracts on what they've done for us, not what we think they could do for us. We always make that mistake, and we've done it with him as well, I'm afraid.
No, you're right. We have, yeah. It certainly appears that way, doesn't it? It's just like I said, it seems to be an Ozil kind of carry on. So you said you obviously an upgrade on Aubameyang. Who would that upgrade be for you then, if that was the case? Well,
there are. I can't think of. There are people. There are names I've heard of, which you don't know are certain. They may not be certain. They're talking about Celtic, who's the guy there, untested in our league. I know you can say that about Tierney as well. There must be people out there that can do a better job than what we've got at the moment. With all the midfielders we've got, there's got to be someone that can get the end of these through balls, the end of these crosses, even the cutbacks. We do a hell of a lot of cutbacks into the area now, which is fantastic. And we don't have not all have someone at the end of it. So there must be someone who can do it. There must be an upgrade on that. Just to produce something, to give the defenders something to worry about. Someone making a centre forward to make a late run into the box so that the defenders looking over their shoulder. Because at the moment, our 2 forwards do it actually. They're static in the box. And that is the easiest thing to mark against. So there must be better forwards out, centre forwards out there than what we got.
Balogun, maybe?
I'd love to see it, but I don't know much about him. Yeah, I'd like to see it. Hopefully we sign him and we, signs a game for us. And he is as good as some people think he is. He's got the potential there. He knows where the net is. If he can do it at this level, fantastic. Don't care at all. The only thing that worries me about Balogun on the bearish side is if hopefully it's his agent. If his agent is laying down the law, fair enough. If Balogun is laying down the law to the Arsenal when he's not played a game for the first team, I don't think he's the type of player we want, because he probably thinks he's better than what he really is. So if he can put that, if it's his agent making a fuss, fine. If it's him making a fuss, think taking Arsenal, put a knife to Arsenal's throat before he kicked the proper ball for us, and forget it.
Yeah, no, that's the point. I mean, I think we're not really sure. Who's maybe creating them issues? If it is him or his agent, let's hope it is his agent. Maybe more
exactly.
So.
Yeah.
He does seem like he's an Arsenal boy, isn't he? So let's hope that he wants to stay.
Yeah,
I think he will certainly be one for the future to do a job. I mean, what about yourself, Dorsey? Would you keep Aubameyang, or if there was a decent enough offer in the summer, move him on?
Depends what you're replacing. Are you replacing a centre forward, or are you replacing a left winger? Because let's face it, he doesn't really play centre forward, does he? Very much.
What do you think would be more of a priority for the squad?
We need a centre forward. We do need one, regardless of whether it's a replacement for Aubameyang or an upgrade on Lacazette. We do need a centre forward. That is a gimme. We definitely need one. But if you're talking about Aubameyang, I probably would sell him if a decent offer come in, and like Melvin was saying, you know, you can get a bit of money for him. You could, with the wages that you're paying him, you could probably get in another 2 or 3 players on those wages. Then yeah, based on that. But it just depends on what you replace him with. Because for me, if you're going to stick him and you're going to keep him as a left winger, and you're not going to play him down the middle, then you could arguably say we don't need to replace him, because you've got someone like Martinelli that can come in and step up. So from that sense, you probably wouldn't need to replace him. But we do need a centre forward. Just touching on the Balogun point, he stinks of trouble for me. He really does. And it's not, and I don't care whether it's his agent or whether it's him. If his agent can only push so hard. If he is that convinced that Arsenal is the right place for him and he wants to be at the club, then you convince your agent to make that happen. And he's not done that. So for me, as good as he is and as good as he might end up being, he should be itching to sign that contract to stay at the club if that's what he wants. So, and Eddie Nketiah is not the answer. Unfortunately, not once have we mentioned Eddie tonight, and I think there's a reason because of that, and it's a shame because he seems like a decent kid that does love the club, but he just doesn't seem to be quite good enough, and he'll probably go on to have a very very good career somewhere else and do really well for himself, but it's just not that level that Arsenal needs. So yeah, I guess the short answer to your question is yeah, I would sell Aubameyang if a decent offer came in, but I think we definitely need to get a centre forward, but I just don't see much out there that is obtainable for a club that's got the finances that we've got. And that would be the only basis really that I might argue in keeping Aubameyang for one more season, is because looking at what's out there, unless you take a risk on, like Melvin was saying, the guy from Celtic, or the Tony guy that plays for, is it Brentford in the Championship? People are mentioning him a little bit. Yeah. I mean, you're taking risks on both of those. Neither of those are going to be gimmies that they're going to be good enough to step up to the Premier League. So, and then kind of the next level up, you're looking at people like Haaland, which we've got absolutely no chance of signing someone like that. So,
he's Erdegaard's best mate. Of course, we've got a chance.
Well, yeah, there is that. So I struggle a little bit. Like, if we can get a decent option, which you can look at and say, actually, that's a relatively safe bet that he's going to do pretty well for the club, then yeah, let Aubameyang move on. But I don't see many options out there that could guarantee them getting more goals than what Aubameyang. Even Aubameyang at 50%, if he's going to get 15, 20 goals a season instead of 25, 30 goals a season, is anybody going to come in and do that? I don't know. And that's my concern, is that you let someone go that can score 20 goals a season and bring in someone that's not going to do it, and then you're going to struggle again. But we definitely need a centre forward regardless of what happens with Aubameyang.
No, I agree. I mean, in the chat there said, being honest, even if Aubameyang scored 20 goals this season, and he probably will, because he's only got 6 to go. Given the age, if the fee was right, it would be right to reinvest. I mean, you're saying, if we sold Aubameyang, do we need a 20-goal player to come in? The fact that what we've been saying a bit earlier, that the way the team's been playing, the goals more spread around, more from midfield, maybe we wouldn't need a 20-goal striker, one player to get 20 goals. Maybe if the evolution of the system is going to carry on. Gary there says Uber and Willian must go, even Laka. We'll have no strikers if that's the case. Arsenal's supposed to be in a rebuild. Yeah, well, we need to keep some players out, Gary. Surely we need at least one striker at the club, I would have thought. He says definitely selling high would be best with the current team finances, i.e. Stan's hands won't come out of his pocket. Well, yeah, we're going to probably have to sell players to get new signings in anyway. We know that. things the way they are. And Terry said there, who's going to want to come to us, a world-class player? Well, Haaland, obviously, because he's best mates with Odegaard. So there's one that will come to us straight away. So that's not a problem, is it? It's just trying to find the £500 million that we'll need to buy him, I suppose. But other than that, it'll be fine. Gary says, do we really need a world-class player? We can't afford them. That's true. Chelsea keep trying and missing. Stay in England and solidify the team. But I totally agree with that. If we could sell Aubameyang and buy 3 or 4 players that are already in the English game, in the Premier League, maybe in other areas of the team that need strengthening, midfield in wider areas, cover there maybe. Gary again, obviously on Nketiah, he hasn't played much and he had a better game than ESR today, obviously referring to the England under 21s, wasn't it? I'm not sure ESR can play with that shirt on. I've not seen him enough to really say that, actually, but you might have seen more of him than me. Even in a red Arsenal shirt and sending back to Arteta. Well, yeah, I'd rather they all stayed at Arsenal, actually. And Terry again says, Gary, you bit the nail on the head. Kroenke won't splash the cash. And he says his caps lock won't turn off. Well, that's fine.
Stop shouting.
We won't. I'll read it more quietly, so we're not shouting. Yeah, that's fine. No, you're right. He's not going to splash the cash, is he? I mean, David, what are your thoughts on Aubameyang then? Would you sell for the right deal, or would you say no, we're going to keep him anyway for the next 2 years regardless?
I'd possibly sell Rich. Yeah, I think he's kind of his race is run. If we got 20 million for him, I'd snap your hand off and say, look, we'll go and reinvest it somewhere else. I suppose we don't even know where you can play him anymore. Can you play him up front? Can you play him on the wing? So that in itself kind of is never a good sign. There is other players out there. Look, the dream would be Calvert-Lewin from Everton.
Yeah,
he's an Arsenal fan, but I don't think money would allow for that. So I think you could look at possibly Watkins from Aston Villa, or maybe Ivan Toney from Brentford. I've watched enough of Ivan Toney this season, from watching games in the Championship and stuff like that for work that I do. So, yeah, look, he's definitely one. I think he's done enough to say that he could come in and make an impact in the Premier League. He's strong, powerful, quick. He's probably everything Watkins is, as well as being a better finisher. So, if you're kind of judging off Watkins and Toney together, I think Toney coming out of the Championship is a better player than what Watkins would have been when he's coming out. He'd be someone there. I like Edouard from Celtic, but I was watching the Old Firm Derby the other day.
Mr.
He didn't have the best to perform. He did.
Mr. Sitter.
So, we have enough of those. I think Lacazette's probably still a better player than Edouard at this minute, whereas I think Ivan Toney or a Watkins or someone like that would probably be a slight upgrade on Lacazette. Look, I like Lacazette, but are we really going to give Lacazette another contract as well and be back here, set here next year, saying what are we going to do with Lacazette? So
it might another good show, so that'll be fun.
It will. Let's talk Lacazette, but no. Look, I suppose we that's the definition of insanity. Doing the same thing and expecting a different result, isn't it? But no, look, I think if you were to ask me if I was to sell, look, if we were to get 20 million for him, you might get another 15 million for Nketiah. Look, you have 35 million there to put it on a top striker, and then maybe keep Lacazette for a season as a backup and then go from there. But if you were to ask me who my dream would be, I think it'd be Calvert-Lewin. He has everything. He'd everything you want in a striker. Quick, powerful, strong, good in the air. Hold up play, good. He supports Arsenal. Potentially another captain in 2 or 3 years. You never know. But I would tell.
Yeah, I love Calvert-Lewin as well. Anthony in the chat says, maybe we should have been in the Premier League. Yeah, definitely. Ollie Watkins. I can't see how we'd get Ollie Watkins. He's only had 1 season at Villa. Danny Ings is quite a good shout because his contract is up next year, so we could get him maybe quite cheap. And he knows the Premier League. He can score goals. He's a powerful player as well, quite good in the air. He gets his fair share of headed goals as well. He could be a good option, couldn't he? So
there was talk of him going somewhere else this week, Richard. Some big club was going in for him
Man
this week.
City.
Who was it? That's it, Man City.
Yeah.
Well, for Danny Ings, really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. I mean, he's a good player. I like him, but he seems not really the right age profile for Man City, really, because he's got to be knocking on 30, isn't he? 29.
He's 29, I think.
Yeah.
That's probably
they're not going to buy him to play.
homegrown.
They're just going to buy him. they're just going to buy him. They're going to buy him to play him. They can afford just to buy him. The rest.
Wherever they want.
Probably
exactly.
just be to fulfill a homegrown quota or something, wouldn't it? Just have a British player, another British player on the books or something, probably.
Well, they bought that guy from Bournemouth, the centre half. Has he played for him yet?
Okay.
Yeah.
I think he's injured at the moment. I think he's injured.
Is he?
I think he's injured.
Can I just say, going back to Martinelli, I saw a 6-minute film video of him yesterday, of all the goals he scored, right? I forgot how good that kid really is. He really is good. Some of those goals were phenomenal. The late running into the box, the timing of it all, the touch, the movement, his head, left foot, right foot. I mean, he's phenomenal. And I just think he could do a job for us in the middle. I really do. You know, especially when we've got all these midfielders playing these little balls around the box, you know, little runs. I think he'd be perfect. I really would. I'd love to see him play up the middle. Well, perhaps not this season now. It's not going to happen. But next season, get his strength, you know, get 100% fit and give him a chance there. Because he's good on the wing. Don't get me wrong. He's terrific. But I think with all that skill, I think I'd love to see it in the middle because you get big results out of him.
And just, Rich, before you go, just on Balogun as well, I've watched him in the 23s since, we'll say, Christmas time when it came up with his contract, and that his attitude stinks. He doesn't want to work hard enough. He doesn't want to put himself about. I don't like what I see from him at the moment. What I see from him in the 23s, they had a game away recently to Man United where they lost the man early. He didn't put 1 ounce of effort in up front, even with 10 men. He doesn't seem so. His head looks elsewhere. So I'd bin him off. His attitude doesn't look right to me, and we have enough players with the wrong attitude. We don't need another one.
That's definitely true. That without a shadow of a doubt. I mean, Jerome, obviously, finally on yourself, what would you do with Aubameyang? Would you sell for the right deal, or would you just keep him anyway for the last 2 years of his contract and hope he gets the goals that we need?
Yeah, if a big offer came in, I would sell him, but to be honest with you, I think it's a bit unrealistic. I can't see it happening. Because someone's got to pay 25-30 million for him, then they got to pay 300 grand a week wages for someone that's going to be 32 in June. So I can't see it happening. Especially, I think Lacazette will probably go in the summer. So I can't see us getting rid of Lacazette and Aubameyang, and maybe Nketiah as well. So yeah, in an ideal world, maybe I'd sell him, but I can't see it happening.
No, you're probably right. I mean, it is who's going to pay. I mean, someone said it in the chat. Who's going to really pay that much for him? Like you said, at his age as well, especially when he's just come off the back of quite a poor season, has he gone past his best, past his peak and stuff like that? Well, I don't know. That's going to be the question, I guess, isn't it? And Terry in the chat is obviously on Martinelli again. He's class. If we don't get any playing time, he'll be off. Well, yeah, maybe. That's the worry, isn't it? He's a good young player, got a lot of potential, as Melvin said, and he needs to be playing. And yeah, let's see what happens. Hopefully, between now and the end of the season, he'll get a lot more minutes, get a couple of goals, and then he might end up being the future for us next season and might solve that problem anyway before we have to worry too much about it. And Gary thinks Arteta's holding him back. What's he holding him back for, though? I don't understand. He looks ready, doesn't he, when he's played? So I don't understand what he's holding him back for, really. What's he waiting for? I don't know. I don't understand that. Saka last season, he was only 18, so maybe you can understand why he didn't throw him straight in, but he gave him a lot more opportunities on the pitch, didn't he? Saka, than he's given Martinelli. So, and Martinelli's a year older, well, they're the same age, but obviously a year older this year than Saka was last year. So I don't know. I'm not sure really, but anyway. Well, I mean, we that was a good little discussion there on Aubameyang, good and bad. I think we probably accept that we are probably he's going to stay with us for the next 2 seasons, I think, isn't he? Let's just hope that he can recover his form that he showed maybe in the first 2 or 2.5 years he was with us, because his goals were important and he was a great player. And it's a shame that, like I said at the beginning, he's not playing with a smile on his face anymore at the moment. And that's I don't like that, because he's always been that sort of player, hasn't he? A smiley player. It's a shame when you see a player clearly not happy with one thing or another. I know he's had his off-field issues and stuff like that as well, but you know, I want him to get back to the form he was showing. I just feel the evolution of the team as it's going maybe doesn't suit him, and he might end up staying with us for the next 2 years, but maybe playing a bit of a bit part, maybe more so, you know, which I don't know how happy he's going to be with that himself personally. But anyway, I mean, thanks to you guys, obviously, for coming on the show tonight. Is that one of your friends there, Jerome, in the chat there? Looks like you've got a fan in.
Yeah, Kieran.
Oh, good old Kieran.
There he is.
Good. You know, you've got some fans. I mean, obviously, thanks for you guys for coming on. It's been great. Melvin, where can people find you on social media?
Only on Twitter, on Melvin, the only way is Arsenal Marks, and on this channel, from Bale Square to Where, and from Mr. Ryan or Mr. Arsenal 89, I'm always on that. Very happy to be on all three. Really enjoy it, and thanks again for inviting me on again, Richard. Brilliant.
It's always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. And Dorsey as well. Thanks for coming on again. It's been great. Where can people find you on social media? You've not got your channel started up yet. What are you doing?
Oh mate, don't. I'm moving house at the moment, so I'm once I'm in the new place and I've got myself a little area to do it, then I'm gonna set it up then. But yeah, at the moment, same as Melvin, just on Twitter. You can see my handle just there. So pop over, come say hello, and have a chat about all things Arsenal. But thanks again for having me on, Richard. Really enjoyed it. Yeah, it's been good to get back on the channel. So yeah, thanks a lot, and good to meet Jerome and Dave as well.
No, it's no problem. It's always a pleasure to have you on, as always. I say, look forward to your channel starting up at some point anyway, because that's going to be good as well.
And the housewarming.
And the housewarming, yeah.
It'd be great as well, yeah. But that's the way to see. When we're allowed, of course. When we're allowed. Well, no, you're allowed 6 people. There's only 5 of us here, so it's fine.
Yeah.
You can be the group of 6. That'll be all right. And Dave as well. Thanks for coming on again. It's been a pleasure. Where can people find you? Obviously, with your channel as well that you've got.
Yeah, look, Richard, and the app, they're out now, Gunnar, and that's me on Twitter, that's me on YouTube. Look, thanks again for having me on, Rich. I enjoy coming on with the channel. We've done a few things, and look, it's always a good show. So even I hope everyone that's watching and that might be watching, tune in to like the video and stick a subscribe button on it, because the work you put in, you deserve more out of it. So I hopefully people give you the support you deserve.
No, thank you very much. That's really kind of you, and thanks for coming on. And say, make sure that you check out Dave's channel as well, Out and Out podcast, because there's some great stuff on there as well. So thanks to Dave for coming on. And finally, Jerome, your first time, what did you make of it? Or did you enjoy it?
Yeah, loved it. Cheers for having me on. Thanks a lot.
No problem. So, where can people find you on social media? You're on a couple of channels, aren't you, as well?
Yeah, so I'm actually on KS1 TV. We're the Transfer Exchange Show. It's on Twitter at the Transfer X, where we talk about all different transfers, different youth players all around the world, sort of next up and coming talent. We have Nathan Ellington on our show every week. Big Man United fan, former West Brom and Wigan player. So yeah, very interesting. Obviously, not only Arsenal, it's all different clubs from all over the world. So yeah, that's on Sunday evening. So that's the Transfer Exchange Show.
Oh, fantastic! We'll make sure that you all check that out, guys, as well, and check what Jerome gets up to when he's not on our channel here. Thanks to you guys in the chat. There's quite a lot of people in tonight. Gary as well. He said another great show. Thanks, Gary. Thanks for watching. Terry as well. Cheers, chaps. Great show. Take care and stay safe. Yep, same to you, mate. And get your caps sorted out as well for the next show. And you see, when am I next on? I'm doing a live watch along of the women on Saturday. The game starts at 3:30 against Tottenham. So I'll be coming on about 3:15 on Saturday for that game. It's going to be good, actually. Arsenal women against Tottenham women. It's our game in hand on Man United as well. So if we win, we'll go back into the top 3, which will be really nice. So we need to beat them about 6-0 because that's what they deserve. And Anthony as well, the Republic of Arsenal. That's another good channel to check him out as well. He says, great show, lads. Thanks for watching, Anthony. And I say, check out that as well, the Republic of Arsenal podcast as well. Joe was in the chat earlier as well. So thanks to him and everybody else that's been in. It's been a good show, so I've enjoyed that. And Craig as well, actually. We'll have to get Craig on and Melvin, I think. We'll have to get him on in the future. I think he seems desperate to come on, so that's fine. We'll have to get all 3 marks on together. That'll be good. That'll just confuse everybody.
Yeah.
So we'll definitely have to do that at some stage, but that's maybe for the future. We'll sort that out anyway. But yeah, thanks everyone for watching. So thanks to you guys for coming on, Melvin, Dorsey, Dave, and Jerome, of course. And I say I'll be back on Saturday for the watch along of the women, and I'll probably have another live show next week at some stage. And of course, building up towards the Liverpool game, so I'll definitely do the Friday night pre-match show next week for Liverpool, because we didn't do one for the first game against Liverpool. So I need to find a Liverpool fan to come on and do that. So I'm sure they will get that sorted as well, and all the usual stuff with that as well. So yeah, loads of guys. Please subscribe if you haven't done so already. Please give it a like and everything else that you do. And we've got KS1 TVs in again. Nice show, boys. Thank you very much, Kieran, for watching. And we'll check out you guys on Sunday as well. Make sure you check out their show as well. So yeah, so thanks everyone for watching. Please subscribe, please like before you go. And I say stay tuned, lots coming up. Thanks to all you guys. And thanks to Aubameyang for creating this show for us by not playing too well. Hopefully now we've got this out of the way. We can start playing well again. Great. We can do a Lacazette show, as we said before, maybe next time. So thanks to you guys. Thanks for watching. Thanks for supporting the channel and everything. And I'll see you again on Saturday. Come on, you Gunners. Come on.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.